suddenly you realize you don't feel very comfortable having your husband around. If it has happened, or having your wife around, especially when you have to do these formal introductions with your friends. So, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That was just sort of a preamble leading us 12 minutes after 8 o'clock GMT. And we are today talking about very important topic in its own right. We are talking about education and relationship compatibility. Does it matter who you marry education-wise? Oh, it's about love. Oh, it's about money. Oh, it's about their ability to provide. What do you feel around this? I think that's really the gist of the conversation that we'll be having tonight. And while we are allowing more people to join the conversation, which is happening pretty slowly today, I think our delayed start has affected that because some people thought probably the program wouldn't be taking place. But we are live on Facebook. We are live as well on Zoom and on YouTube via Umma Connected 75W Radio. The conversation, as usual, we will be taking and hearing from you. Probably you have personal experiences. It might not be just about you. It might be about someone you know and how you've been observing. In fact, sometimes it's actually a lot better when you are on the sidelines looking in, looking at the kind of relationship that people are having and whether it has become a problem. Are there people that you know that have managed actually to keep it together? Isma, are you ready?
Full co-host, computer to the co-host.
I think you are.
No.
Zombies co-host. Audio Studio Mark and 75W Radio. Zombies co-host. One has, yeah, but both have your mic on. Zombie, they are. So let's know when you're ready. I think we'll be able to see it on screen and then we will allow us to watch this. I mean, I went around YouTube as usual and finding a couple of, this is not a new story at all. It's a story that has been around us, but it's about how people have delved into it. And it's different when everybody speaks about it, when anybody speaks about it, because people are affected in different ways. There are times when you think at a particular moment in time, someone has gone out, made his money or made her money, and then you hook up, that those become the circumstances. They can pay the dowry, they can take you out of the village and bring you to Europe. And for you, with your levels of education, they do not matter so much then. But then it gets to a point where you start feeling affected, and that is really important. Do you feel that now probably this is the time to break up? We've had situations where people, women, especially women, have been brought from Africa, from Uganda, from elsewhere in Africa, brought to join their spouses here in Europe. They were in education. The husbands were not necessarily highly educated. Probably they dropped out of school, embarked on business, and then managed to come to Europe. And then they brought their spouses, got married. They start getting to a point where it becomes very uncomfortable. The wife feels really in the wrong place, having this particular husband, forgetting everything that stood or that really made them. This could just be one of the examples, but it would be very interesting just to hear from your side of the story. Isma, let's have that video, please, while we allow some more people to join us. Please, if you have friends, just call them, alert them to the conversation. It will be very important for us to hear and have this conversation tonight over this matter. Isma, it's the second one, but it's fine. Okay, we can have that. But the sound, there's no sound. There's no sound, Isma.
TV with me, Gabriella Brown, and my next exciting topic. So tonight, I want to ask our ladies, would you date someone that's less educated than you? For me, this is not even a question. I definitely would, but I know that some girls would never date somebody without the highest level of education, or because this means that they earn a lot of money, for example. But I can't wait to find out more. Let's go and get some answers. Would Would you date a guy less educated than you?
Yeah, I would. I would. Yes, definitely. Absolutely. I would, yes, because education is not that important. Like, if it's not actually really done, then yeah, that's fine.
Why doesn't it matter for you?
It might be important for a career, but it's not very important in a relationship, because I don't think education is a mark of how interesting someone is. As long as they were open-minded and were interested in learning new things, then their education and background doesn't have to matter. Because it doesn't matter about how educated they are. It should be based on how good the conversation is that you have with them at the time.
Why is learning new things like important for you?
Well, then you can have some fun dates, you know, if they're kind of got an open mind, and you can go and do some fun things. So, and I think it's just, you're probably more of a fun person to spend time with.
I don't think that education is important for anything.
Why doesn't it bother you?
To me, I think emotional intelligence and having a connection in other ways is probably just as important as whether they're like smart.
Yes, of course. And that happened to me right now, so it's not an important for me.
Yeah, I probably would date someone who is less educated than me.
Yeah, I would.
How come?
Because feminism, isn't it? Like, you'll get, you'll be able to tell them what to do.
It doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean if they're not a nice person or anything like that. So, yeah, why not?
If they were what I was looking for, if they were like looks or just that connection, then of course I would.
What would you say is more important than education?
Personality?
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think is more important than education?
Definitely personality and manners.
What if a guy had a low level of intelligence but he had an amazing personality? Would you date him?
Maybe like I would want him to be more ambitious, although it doesn't have to be something big. It could be like a smaller thing, but I want him to be like goal settled.
Yes, I would. Great. So personality's winning. And what about if a guy was rich but a low level of education?
It wouldn't matter.
No, for me it's not important the money.
Because the money's not important. That's great.
Probably not because of the education thing, but more because of the
Being rich with no education.
wealth doesn't attract me.
Again, it doesn't matter to me, education or wealth. I think it's just on the person and what they're like.
No, that wouldn't work.
Would you say it has an effect if somebody's got a higher level of education than you?
If they make me feel the most important person in the world, then I don't care.
Money or education?
Education, but like life education.
Would you date a guy with low intelligence?
No, no way.
Why not a guy with low intelligence? If somebody was rich, but they weren't very clever, would you go on a date with them?
I don't think so.
Personally, no.
Hey guys, so I've just finished speaking to our ladies, and they all said that education really wasn't that important to them. As long as you have basic common sense, that is the only thing that bothers them. They think that things that are more important are things like your personality and how you treat them. For our dating services, go to CarmelLifestyle.com for more videos like this. Come
Okay,
back here,
what is
me
my
and
can stop
Karma
that
TV.
now?
Click like, subscribe on the button.
Just
I would want him to be more ambitious.
publicity. What is my? Thank you very much. Now I think that's a kind of a variety, a selection, a sneak peek look into the conversation. Haswa, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just seeing you appearing there. Just to say that, looking into that small video, I think the second video is going even to open up the conversation much widely and sort of put it into perspective, because this one was kind of a general peek. It's a vox pop, and therefore didn't go into so much detail as to, but we get the gist of it. Many women, and it was actually almost entirely women, because it was a lady asking whether that actually should be an issue, whether that is a problem, whether it should in any way influence, the decision as to who you date. So it's actually almost all women, if I remember well. Let's hear from a man and just get to see. Probably that might help to inform or change your mind. Isma, if we can have the second video, please. And that would at least lead us, allow us to get more people. If you've just joined us, the conversation tonight, we are live on Facebook and on YouTube and Zoom. And the program is Come Let's Talk with me, KASSIM KAYIRA, live on 75W Radio and live on Umma Connect, both YouTube, Zoom, and Facebook. And remember, you can always contribute to the conversation via Facebook or even via Zoom. If you are on, just into the chat room, we can keep the conversation running. And that is, well, Isma, if you're ready, are you ready with the second video?
Yes.
Okay, please, let's roll with that because that at least will help inform our conversation. If you've just joined us, Imran Shaban, Muna Nambalirwa, and the early entrance into the class, Wasli Hajat Sarah Semakura, Asfa Kasuja, thank you very much and welcome to the conversation. Not this one, not this one, it's the next one. I'd actually lined them up, it's just with the man. It's not that one. I sent you the last clip that I sent you had the way they would play out. So I thought you had seen that one. If you can check, it's the man. But just if you have just joined us, I mean, the conversation tonight, we are talking, does it really matter the level of education that you have? And I'll just want to open up the conversation as we get more people in so that we don't miss out on the opportunity. Charles K, I've noticed you've joined us as well. Welcome to the conversation. And Isma, when you're ready, let me know, sir, so that we can have that and then open up our discussion without much ado. 22 minutes past 8 GMT, with the clocks having changed on Sunday, even our brains now have to work almost in reverse mode. And answer is, Hasmaga Sujat, to your question, it is a yes. Answer to your question, it is a yes. I couldn't type very quickly. Isma, are you ready with that? If not, then I might just...
1 minute.
Okay, I might just delve and go. I'm just checking on the social media, on Facebook and YouTube, because already comments are already down there. Let me just check that one quickly. All mainly they are all likes, nothing. 1 second, I'll see that. Yep. Are we ready, Isma?
To make
it's a man. It's the last. Well, it's the last clip that I sent in, which has the 2. And for those who have just joined us, I can see the numbers are beginning to build up, which means we can actually get opening our conversation very shortly. No, not that one. Oh, let's see that. Yeah. Yes, I think that's the one. Yes.
Hey, this is Raul here. Please act right. I wanted to make this video addressing women out there who say they will not date a man unless his education, scholastic-wise, matches hers, meaning college education. So here's what happened to me today. So I'm at the grocery store, and this woman approaches me and asked me if I was single. And I told her yes. Then she asked me, did I go to college? And I was like, well, I did a first semester, but I dropped out. So then this woman looks me up and down and says, oh, okay, all right, thank you, and just walks away. Did this woman just walk away from me because I didn't have a college degree? A college education has nothing to do with a man's level of intelligence. Ladies, you have no idea how many good men you're passing up to. Some of us men decide not to go to college because of our specific reasons, like couldn't afford it, that's not why God put us on this earth, or like me, because I just wasn't interested in going. Why? Well, I remember sitting in my geometry class many years ago. One day, we were studying the isosceles triangle. While I was sitting there, I thought to myself, how is knowing about the isosceles triangle gonna help me with whatever it is I become in my life? I thought about all the classes you have to take when you're in high school, like math, and science, history, and French, all that stuff. Am I gonna use any of this stuff when I get out into the real world? Then I thought about college. It's the same thing. Taking all these classes that have no relevance on what I may become when I graduate. Now, by no means am I telling people to not go to college. Do you? But it made no sense for me. Then a funny thing started happening when I started looking back over my life. I noticed one thing about myself. When I'm interested in a subject, I go all the way in on it. When I'm not interested in a subject, I'm not interested in a subject. Check it out. After high school, I went to junior college and I majored in accounting. Let me show you how interested I was during that class. boy, did I choose the wrong subject. Well, I ended up dropping out halfway through the first semester. Then I joined the military, the Air Force, and I started working on F-16 fighter jets. Once I became fascinated with the aircraft, I learned and knew everything about that jet because I was interested. See where I'm going with this so far? With no college education. Well, I didn't like the military, but I loved working on aircraft. So I decided to study and get my aircraft maintenance license to work on civilian aircraft. I studied my butt off, and when I took the final exam, I blew the test away. I even got hired at Delta Airlines back in 1991 with no college education. Yep, sure did. But back then, the Saudi Arabia thing kicked off, and it went on a hiring freeze, so I never could actually take the job. So I ended up going back working part-time for the company that I worked for before I went to the military. Then I got promoted to full-time driver with the largest delivery company in the world. I'm not gonna say the name though. What can Brown do for you? And being a full-time driver, I was making some good money with no college education. I was making more money as a truck driver than a lot of my friends who had college education, but I wanted more. See the ambition? So I decided to get my real estate license. And I was in class like this. Okay. Question, I got a question. Why? Because we were only studying real estate, not history, not math, not science, all that stuff that has nothing to do with real estate. When it was time to take the final exam, I blew the test away. I scored very high with no college education because I was interested in the subject, and that's all we studied, real estate. But that wasn't good enough, so I decided to go after my broker's license. See the ambition? Y'all see where I'm going with this, right? I paid for the online study guide and studied my butt off. I was in class like, I know the answer. Pick me. When it was time for me to take the class final exam, I called the testing center and made an appointment for the exam. When I got there, I told the two young ladies I was there to take the broker's exam, and they asked me which one. I said, all of them. They looked at me like I was crazy. See, there were 5 different exams you had to take, and you had to pass them in order to qualify for the state exam. Clearly, nobody had ever come in there and took all 5 exams at the same time. So they set me up in the room, and 3.5 hours later, I came back out for them to score my exams. Now, this was back when they was doing everything on paper. Those 2 young ladies were like, oh my God, I gotta see if he passed these. Nobody ever came here and took all these exams at the same time, and I passed 4 of them, but I failed 1, the financial exam. I realized I failed because once my mind says, why do I need to know this as a broker? The financial side, you're gonna send the person to a loan officer. Why do I need to know this? My brain tends to shut down because I'm not really interested. Well, went back 2 weeks later, and I blew the test away with no college education. Unfortunately, I didn't take the state exam because it was 2008 and that's when the market tanked. But saved all my money, and in 2012, I started buying cash single-family homes and made a killing renting those houses out. I did very well with no college education. Well, some years went by and I was doing financially well, and I decided, I think I'll get my insurance license. Y'all see the ambition here, right? I was in class like, I know the answer. Pick me, because it was a subject I was interested in. When it was time to take the final class exam, I blew it away. I scored very high with no college education because it was a subject that I was interested in, and that's all we studied was insurance. When I went to take the state exam, that test was hard. There were people that were taking it for their 2nd and their 3rd time. One young lady said, this is my 2nd time. I said, for both tests? She said, no, I'm just trying to pass the first one. I went there to take both of them at the same time. And I passed both tests the first time out with no college education. I've made 6 figures a year for so many years, I've lost count. With no college education. With all that being said, this woman walked away from me because I didn't have a college education. Now, please understand, I'm nowhere near perfect, but let me run down my attributes to you, shall I? I'm responsible, reliable, dependable. I know how to fix just about anything on a car. I know how to fix just about anything on a house. I'm honest. I come home. I bring my loving home. I bring my paychecks home. Paychecks home. Man, stop bragging. I'm not bragging. I'm just letting them know. I'm not in the strip clubs. I'm not at the racetrack gambling to rent money away. I'm trustworthy and I treat women with the utmost respect. Always have and always will. Now, I'm not bragging, but I'm making a point. I've made 6 figures as a truck driver. I've owned real estate. I own stocks. I invest in IUL insurance policies. I make money selling insurance policies and annuities. I have my notary public certification. I've written 2 books and I'm working on number 3. I have a website and 2 YouTube channels that are doing very well. I'm now taking a marriage counseling course. And after that, I'll be taking a life coaching course to get certified in that with no college education. So here's my serious question. For women only looking for men with college degrees, do I really have to have a college education for you to take me seriously? You'd be surprised what some of us men who don't have college education are capable of doing. So for the college educated women out there who are only looking for a college educated man, good luck. And by the way, just because he has a college education,
thank you very, very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen,
videos right here.
I'm sure at this moment in time, probably this is helping to form a decision in your mind regarding tonight's topic. And just a quick reminder, tonight we are talking about education and relationships. Does it really matter who you marry in terms of their levels of education? Does it matter? Is it about money? Is it about love? Is it about, well, does education really count at the end of it? Does it matter if it's the man who is less educated or it's the woman who is less educated? Let's open this conversation. Tonight, you've just heard from a man who went all the way down, starting his conversation with what happened when he met this particular woman who asked whether he had a college education. And because he didn't, the woman walked away. Does it really matter? Let's open the conversation now. As usual, we are live on 75W Radio, and we are live as well on Umma Connect on Facebook, on Zoom, and on YouTube. The time is just 3 minutes past 8 or past 8:30. That is 27 minutes to 9 o'clock GMT in London, in the United Kingdom. Hajat Sarah, I'll just come and start with you. I'm just provoking you tonight, straight into that. Does it really matter whether how much education the man has, or it's about love? Hajat Sarah, are you there? Oh, going into the quiet room. I'll wait for when you can be available. Wesley? Hello, Wesley, are you there? Hello, Wesley, are you able to speak where you are at? It's gone suddenly quiet. Raihan, Shamim Namudu. Yes, I'll come. Raihan. Yes, where did I start from here? Raihan, Assalamu alaikum. Hello, Raihan. Everybody's quiet. Are the mics not working, or what's not happening? Raihan, are you there? Raihan, are you there? Let's come to Shamim. I'm trying to see if the mics are working. Shamim Namudu. Hello, Shamim.
Yes, Brother Kassim. Salam alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. I was beginning to get worried whether the mics are down or dead. Welcome to the conversation. How are you today?
I'm okay. And how are you there?
Alhamdulillah. Does it matter what sort of level of education a man has in a relationship, or should it matter?
It should matter, because in most cases, your level of education determines how you reason, your attitude to many things, the perspective to life. It really matters. Though in some instances, we have seen very successful marriages when the guy is not educated, maybe or the other way around. But in my opinion, some level of education should really be a point which people should really reason. If you've gone to school, at least get somebody who has gone to school. It may not really be a degree, but some basic some basic.
Do you
Because
see? Yes. Go ahead, Shamim. Sorry.
Our character,
Mm.
our natural character, sometimes is influenced, is shaped, is pruned by the education system we have gone through.
Mm.
Maybe the way I manage my anger was really bad. But as I went through the educational system, meeting the various people and confronting the various circumstances, then I changed. Sometimes the people you network with may also help you change those nitty-gritties, those funny characters. So to me, education really matters.
Now, you say that there have been cases where we've ended up having successful marriages where people are not of the same level of education. Let's concentrate on the part that you are pushing for, which is the one regarding people being of the same level of education. Do you feel that there might be a sort of an inferiority complex when it comes to the relationship? Does it matter, you know? Would there be a problem in this? Sorry, let me put it this way. Does it matter whether it is the man who is more educated or the woman? Which situation do you think is what would be worse? Probably that might help to expound what I want to put across.
When the man is less educated, the situation is worse because he wants his ego, he wants that respect, and then for you are pushing your education. So I would prefer when the man is more educated than the woman.
That is something I would like to put across. Actually, it's a question probably I'll be asking everybody to see, because whether it gets better with the woman who is less educated in comparison to the man, or especially when it comes to ego management. Yeah, thank you very, very much, Shamim. You've opened us into that deep conversation now. Well, are there any practical examples that probably you might not necessarily name names, but maybe you can just mention those specific cases that you know and what happens just in terms of the relationship inside the home?
Okay, in our tradition, the Chiganda tradition, a woman is supposed to kneel when greeting a husband, when serving a husband, when serving the in-laws. But some cases, when you're highly educated as a woman, then you reason and say, now, why should I kneel? So you begin to reason, you begin to doubt your culture.
Yes.
And yet, most men here in Uganda, here in at home, love, especially the Bantus, they really treasure the culture. And we train our boys to kneel for their mothers and their elders, a boy. And then you will visit a friend, and the friend will say, lwaki omwana omulenzi afukamira koza anti oli maama we amwana gwe toddayo kufukamira abalenzi tebafukamira. So it's all about culture, that education will begin reasoning and questioning culture.
So does education then become better then in that instance, or it actually becomes a problem, a burden, when it starts questioning culture?
For me, because I'm a traditionalist, I think it becomes a problem to me.
Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very, very much, Shamim.
But I've been kneeling, and I kneel for my in-laws, for my husband.
No,
thank you
very, very much. Thank you very much. And stay there, actually, because I think we are opening now a whole can of worms in terms of the conversation, especially when it comes to cultures and how they fit into the bigger perspective of education. Usama Nuhu, I can see so many new faces, so many new names. I hope, this has attracted you into the conversation. Usama, are you there? I'd like to hear from a man who's just had a woman opening up the conversation for us tonight. And that was Anjad Shamim, who has just opened us into the conversation. Usama, are you there? Hello, Usama.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
Sarah is back now.
I'm so sorry. I got cold and I went away. So I missed some of, I left when you were playing a video.
Yes.
And I got called. I don't know where we are at the moment.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
that's all right. Okay. We've just heard from Shamim Namudu, who has opened up, a whole conversation regarding this particular topic of life. Education really matters. Probably just to pick up your brains on this. What's your take? Does it really matter? Should there be? Is there any issue? Is there any problem with one of the spouses being more educated than the other? Actually, the other one not being as educated.
Actually, when I look at with my own experience, I've seen that the majority of people do really find it difficult, especially men, if you do marry someone who is higher in education than you are, even when you have money. So though sometimes when you have a lot of money, that can be a cover for you. It could work in your favor, but mostly women do look down upon men when they are not as well as educated as they are. Men can be very tolerant and very protective. They would know where to take you, where you would be more comfortable. But a woman would find it really difficult.
That to me is an issue, because once you start determining where you can take the person and where you cannot take them, I mean, I imagine work parties, company parties, and you cannot take your wife because you're not comfortable having.
But for the man, what he's looking at is he married a woman for him, not for the public or for the society. So he's just trying to be protective. Yes, sometimes they might explain to you that I don't think you'll be happy there. And you would also say that you may not have the kind of conversation that you can hold with that kind of corporate kind of group. So it would be in your favor. But with a woman, I don't know, even friends would be all the time talking about you, should feel very inferior among his friends. So for a woman, you should always try and get, a man should always find a woman of her level or someone below his level. And men find it that if they marry women who are low in education, they will listen to them. Yeah, they work with them, they will be respectful. And well, that's what I see for me, but let's carry on the conversation and see.
The more educated the woman is, the more likely she is that she will not be respectful of the husband, or will make the husband feel a bit uncomfortable, inferior,
she'll want to be the one having putting on the trousers or calling the shots.
Would you allow, for example, your daughter, God forbid, but I mean, if it came to that, your daughter comes in, she's just found a man, she's well educated, the husband is not educated at all, but we never decide where our hearts go, and love has pushed them there.
It wouldn't be my decision to make, but I would worry about the future, because I would be thinking that at the moment it seems like something that will work, but as time goes on, things might not be very good for them. So I would rather she didn't. But if she does say that this is the man I want, then I have no say. But I would worry about the future, because I know sometimes we get heated up and make decisions in the heat of the moment, but then the future tells differently.
Now, I'm just thinking as well, because from a religious perspective, and again, religion keeps coming in, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, whenever we can actually, tag into that. In Islam, in the Sharia, there is an element which is called kuf'ah, that whenever you're going to get married, looking for that aspect of kuf'ah, which is akin to compatibility, but it's not necessarily compatibility. It's about being of a particular level, and that is, for example, if a very wealthy person marries from a very poor family, the chances are that you're going to find yourself actually being inferior in a lot of ways. You've had, for example, in the Chiganda setting where there's that perspective that whenever someone is not of a similar class, and although the class system is not allowed within Islam, for instance, but you find that there will be classes whether you like it or not. Classes, for example, now education comes in. So an educated person marrying an uneducated person, the chances are there are often times when, for example, especially when people have lived in Europe for so long, they go and look for a woman that would befit you in terms of giving you the respect and sitting home and kneeling down the way you would want traditionally. But then you find that the levels of education might be a primary 7 dropout who, however, is beautiful and then has been trained very well in the traditions that they can, sort of stand the test of time. I was just thinking from a religious perspective that once you think about the kufa, this level of education might be an issue that comes up, especially when it becomes a problem. Because when you said where the husband would feel comfortable to decide where he can take you or not, I'm seeing that now becoming a bit of a question, a bit of a problem. I think I would wish to have some religious scholars on this matter, at least so that we can probably look at it, whether education could be considered as part of that element of kufa. Ajat Sarah, now looking at the relationship between husband and wife, do you think it is worse if it is a woman that is more educated and the man is less educated but moneyed? So probably the man has money but is not educated, or whether it's vice versa, where you might find, for example, that you have a husband who is very well educated, but then with a wife who is uneducated. Which one do you think is worse, just in terms of the dynamics of balance?
The worst would be when the woman is more educated or more wealthy than the man.
Mm-hmm.
That is one that I know that will not work, definitely. Most of the time it doesn't work. But for a man, but I think also with education, there should be a certain level. If we are talking about someone who is wealthy and who maybe has got a degree and marrying someone who dropped out in primary,
yes,
then that is something which is not going to work at all. There should be a certain level. But when we talk about education versus marriage, that means that these people have acquired a certain degree of education, but one might be higher than the other. Those could work. They could work, especially if the man has lots of money. The woman will be happy because at least she may be having her PhDs, but this man has gone at least to a level of college, school, or attained a degree. So that is quite fair. But even if you have the PhD and you still have no money, at least with the mind, they really need to have the money.
Can't love beat all of this, because where there is love, quite often everything else would sort of.
Shekeke, you must be aware that love has to be facilitated. There is not going to be any love when there is no facilitation. You need to facilitate it. Sorry, the word is gone. Yeah, but you have to really feed it in all ways. So you are not going to just think that, oh, having sex is all that makes love. No way. Even you have to have a pretty bed to do that.
But we have had cases where these sort of marriages have happened, like I've mentioned, where people have had, like, especially in the case of arranged marriages, and they find a wife who's very beautiful quite often, of very low education, hardly much education, but the husband has come in because he either studied abroad or he's completed his studies and needs a respectful wife. Now, because of the challenges, and actually what is happening a lot more lately is that you have more women now attending education much more. So the women are going on and getting higher education much more than the men. As a result, you find that now the very highly educated women almost have to stoop low to come back to be able to get married. I don't know if that is something that you've noticed in your experience.
Well, that could be the case, but one thing we should know, that marriage happening and marriage lasting are two different things. Yes, it could happen, but is it going to last? That's the big question. And trouble will come in when you've already fathered or mothered children, and then you have to separate. That would be another bigger problem. So it's best to start off. Look at all the values, what you really want, before you could just go in for anything. Because like they say, love is blind. At the end of the day, that statement must mean a lot, that you could go for anything, but will it last?
That is the question. Will it last? Thank you very much, Ajat sir. Let's hear from a man now. Ismail Musoke, I can see you there. I'm sure you've been listening into the conversation. It's a new name as well on the channel, on our group conversation here, on our global community conversation, which means we are digging deep and getting new entrants coming into the conversation. Ismail, are you there? Are you able to speak to us, please? Ismail, can you unmute yourself, please? If you just click on that unmute button. Ismail? Okay, I'll just try, and I've seen Rabab Munta. Rabab? Rabab, can you unmute yourself, please? Rabab Munta? Oh, that's not happening. I'll just go to Mama Aka. I'm trying to get some men to hear the view from the men. It's just been the women. Chance K is saying education is just secondary. Why don't I just bring you on, Chance K, and then while Mama Aka is getting ready to come on. Chance K, if you can unmute yourself, please. Welcome to the conversation. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, KK.
Hey, how are you today?
I'm fine, thanks.
Does education matter in a relationship?
Well, I'm on a fence because I don't know what level of education you're talking about.
Jump over the fence and let's imagine that it's a very low level of education. So you're talking about a degree graduate and another P7 dropout, possibly, if that will help you get over the fence.
Because why I'm on a fence is because the applicability of education depends on the environment. If you're talking about Europe, it's different from back home, Uganda. We have many professors, master's degree who are venturing into different industries to survive. And I don't see the correlation, especially in Uganda, about the higher educated someone is and the stability of their marriage.
But Chance, we are seeing so many women now pursuing higher education. Go to Uganda Management Institute. You see how many have gone for their masters, beyond their first degrees at uni and so on. Women are putting in a lot more effort. Actually, globally, research is showing that women are embarking on higher education a lot more than the men. And the men are back there sort of fighting in the kitchens or in the industries to make sure they put food on the table, at least assumedly. Which is now sort of disadvantaging them in terms of the levels of education. And the wives who are highly educated now, how they find themselves being able to deal with the less educated men. That is creating complications. Although many women now, having attained such levels of high levels of education, are still going down and marrying the less educated men because they are the ones who are available. The higher you go, the pick list becomes less and less.
No, the fact is, you're right. The fact is there is a big wave of women getting empowered and getting more on education ladder, more than men now. That's a reality. Across the globe, women are more into books than men. That's a fact to me. I'll take it. But at the end of the day, it's about ego management and self-realization and self-satisfaction. Where do you get your satisfaction if you're in marriage? Are you satisfied by having a husband who is a PhD holder? Are you satisfied with a master's holder? At the end of the day, it's, marriage has no formula. That's what I think. At the end of the day, it's how do you understand each other? How do you control your egos, If you're a cultured man.
Maybe, Chance, are you trying to say, I would rather say marriage has a formula, but it's not a one size fits all. So every level, every marriage has its particular formula that works for that particular marriage. But there has to be a formula. Minus a formula, you wouldn't otherwise, be able to coexist.
I think we grew up with this concoction that to be successful, you have to be very much educated. That's in our DNA. Yeah. Even up to now, we chase kids from kindergarten. You need to study. You need to study. You need to go to university. That has been in our DNA. But at the end of the day, what's the correlation? What value do we know? We get the value, but what record is there to talk about?
So what sort of record are you referring to then? Is it about respectability or respect between the two couples?
No, I think.
Is it about what sort of values are we referring to here?
Respect is regardless of of how educated you are, but how do you understand each other? Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to commit yourself, if you're getting into marriage, it's a commitment for life, you know, you have to think twice. If you feel you don't augur well, then don't go into it. And if you feel that to be committed and stable and happy, I need ABCD. And the first priority is you have to be educated this much. That's your suit. But it's not alike for everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Chance. Rayhan is saying the level of education is no indicator of intellect. So whether a marriage works or not has nothing to do with the education of either spouse. Rayhan, I'd rather put you on the line then, and we try to dig a little bit more into this. Rayhan, are you there? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You think the level of education is no indicator of intellect?
No.
What is?
I think in basic terms, or what I think is when you speak to somebody, sometimes the conversation, you can have like 2-3 word conversation, and that will tell you about the level of intellect of that person, in my own experience. Like, so like the gentleman in the video said, he didn't go to formal education, not because he was dumb. He wasn't dumb. Clearly, he was an intelligent man. He just didn't see the point of sort of going through the rat race if you're not interested. So to me, that man is actually very intelligent, because he knows what he wants, and then he finds out how to go about in terms of achieving what he wants. So someone like that doesn't need to have like a certification to say that he went to Harvard to prove he's intelligent. He's already proven his intellect through how he's navigating life, and you know.
But Rayhan, if you think about how our society has been brought up to think, we know when we look at a university person, we assume that person is very knowledgeable, is very clever, very intelligent.
That's a fallacy.
That is the assumption. How do we start changing? Because that would almost now mean suddenly changing the whole thinking, just like many things now have had to change.
I think we need to change. I think we need to turn this thing on its head. So the fact that people go to university, I mean, I know people who have like 3-4 degrees, you know, they've got, you know, multiple degrees. So they have umganda chaitandoza magezi gomchivina, but they don't have common sense. Because those two are not quite the same. Some people are just quite good at learning and absorbing information, not necessarily at applying it. That's one thing. So I mean, the whole idea that to be classed as tertiary level of education is a fallacy. So I think that needs to be turned on its head. And I think it's actually showing through like the generations that are coming up. You see a lot of kids now aspire to be like footballers or things outside of what we call formal education. So they've actually cottoned on that in order to be classed as successful, you don't really need a degree. I mean, what the gentleman said before, that to have that level of qualification, for example, like if you're a doctorate holder, is really a case of self-actualization. You do it for you, because to be fair, nobody benefits from your PhD apart from you, in that you're going to write books and, you know, if you're lucky, you get published, you know, but the primary person who benefits is really you, because it gives you a sense of self. So I think when we come to marriages and unions, we have to ask the question, or I would ask the question is, it's not about sort of where the other person is in terms of their, you know, qualified formal level of education, so to speak.
Doesn't it help though? Doesn't it help when it's there? Doesn't it help? To have a husband, for example, and you say is Dr. So-and-so is a PhD holder.
If it makes you feel good, I mean, like I say, what the man said, if
no, it's not about that, well, that's part of it, but I'm thinking you're sitting amongst your fellow women. You've gone to the saloon, or you are having your halakha, and before the starts, you're all talking about your husbands.
I think there is there is a place for that in society, but that brings me back to my point. Like, it depends where you're at in life, and where you draw your sense of self from. I mean, if you draw your sense of self from identifying with the person who's supposedly a doctor, and that gives you a sense of self, then to me there's a deeper issue in your own self as a person. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's a different conversation. With that being said, it is true that people will, I mean, it's not bad to be proud of your spouse, like, my spouse is a doctor, whatever, it's not bad. But I suppose the question is, do you draw your sense of self and identity from their own identity? Do you know what I mean? So I would think that, in my own layman opinion, I think that whether a marriage works or not largely has nothing to do. At the core of it, it's not because you're more educated and I'm not, or the woman is more educated and the man is not. At the core of it, it is relating on these things of formal qualifications are really superficial if you think about it. People have to relate on a human level first. So if you can relate on a human level, then you'll be able to engage with any person in any walk of life. So it will not matter whether they're a PhD holder or they're your maid at home, the person that helps you. You really have to relate to people on a human level. Once we get into the corporate world and the so-called land people, then it becomes a matter of classes, and so is so and so is her. But all these are like pretty much, they're artificial in a way. So I always hold that when people say that omukyala ayina amagezi oba omukyala asomye nnyo ajja kujooga omwami, it is not reflection on the woman that she's a bad woman. It is reflection on the man that he does not have the ability to handle that kind of woman. Therefore, he's punching way above his weight.
No, Brian, I would disagree on that. And I think Sarah did mention it at some point. Actually, no, it was Shamim Namud, who started with, saying an educated woman now would have issues having to kneel down, for example, because traditionally a Muganda woman now would come and kneel before her husband, handing him something.
No, but I think there are women. These two things are not. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. You can find a man who's very highly educated, but also highly a traditionalist. Those two can coexist. The trouble is, or maybe not the trouble is, the point is, I think most women who maybe have achieved a higher level of education, they question things more, not because they don't, it's not like you do just because you do. You have to question, what value does it add? For example, Mr. KAYIRA, if you were my husband and you came home and you found a meal and all the sort of things that you expect from a so-called wife in the traditional sense, and I gave you a warm welcome and a hug, and I would say, my question to you would be, I think so. So for me, I think that because Kati people, they learn to question, what does it mean to be a Muganda anyway? Because this masks a whole layer of questions now. What does it mean to be a Muganda?
Okay.
Tutandikirao.
Thank you very much, Umar. Thank you very, very much. I'd like to hear from the men now. Umar Kagombe and Ismail Musoki. I'm trying to get you to unmute, please. Let's join the conversation. This is Let's Talk with me, KASSIM, KAYIRA, live on 75W Radio and on Umma Connect, on Facebook, on Zoom, and on YouTube, where we are streaming live at this particular moment in time. Umar Kagombe, Uchaka Ankanye, over Ismail Musoki. Are you there? Umar is finally unmuted. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sheikh KAYIRA sebo webalo nteekateeka.
Amina sebo mbadde ngaye nti omusajja atidde okwogera ng'akazinda lukaganya okusumulukuka.
Very, very exciting topic. I've been listening in, and I like the views expressed by. Yeah. I'm actually listening in from South Sudan right now. Juba.
That's the global community conversation, as we say. Thank you very much. Yes.
Well, very exciting topic. Yeah, I think it is true that we are having issues related to qualification versus relationships and how different people perceive, the level of education versus whether the marriage or the relationship will be successful. I have had a couple of friends who usually tell me I would prefer to go for a less educated woman.
And why is that? Why is that?
And they give you the reasons, these ladies who are, career oriented, who are too educated, they literally have little time for the family and even the kids. And they tend to look at, a woman who is going to, dedicate more time to build a family, to raise the family, as opposed to a highly educated woman who is going to be pursuing her career most of the times. So you'll have kids raised by maids, raised, by really who are getting very minimal parental love and attention. When you find yourself in a situation where the mother is really a highly educated woman holding a very high position of responsibility, even when they get home, there's too much on their desks and they have very, very minimal time.
Minimal time for you. Let's probably put the children on the side a little bit. For you, the husband, since the relationship is about you and them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also maybe to be honest, if you are the kind of man who also is very inferior in terms of the level of education, and for example, you have a wife who holds a huge position of responsibility in a fairly busy organization, and then you're the kind of man who is less busy, so you'll have a lot of time, and then you have very minimal time with your wife, so you need her but she's not available. And don't be surprised if that is a compelling reason for me to get maybe another person to help you.
Well, in the chat room, there is already fire coming through. Umuraihan is saying traditional African men don't like being challenged, and therein lies their problem. Any questioning of
the views expressed here are not necessarily views of Umar.
And Hayat Sarah said we need to ask ourselves what is actually happening in society. We would like a society which thinks and works, like Umuraihan is saying, but unfortunately, we do not. And patriarchy drives the system. So you can hear the fire in the chat room. There is a sort of thing when women have sort of been empowered now, being able to ask the questions, we get uncomfortable, and that is causing many of the problems. But could it be that the level of education is also spoiling the ability of how to question whatever they are questioning now? Could it be that therein lies a problem?
I think we must be happy about women getting more empowered and taking on more responsibilities. But we must never forget that we have duties that are placed onto these beloved mothers, to take responsibilities of the home. That those responsibilities they must never forget. Despite the so many responsibilities they hold, they are in charge of our homes. They have to take care of that. Nobody can ever substitute their responsibility as mothers, as women who are in charge. You are the managing directors, executive directors of our homes. So I know we are not trying to say that we are against women, being empowered, taking on huge responsibilities. But please, our dear sisters, despite the level of education you have, please let the education, your level of education, your titles, your responsibilities, when you enter the house, be a mother, be a woman of that home, not an MD, an ED of
I'm sure the women will have a say on that, and we will be hearing from that. Umar Kagombe, all the way from South Sudan, thank you very much. And I'd like to say thank you for others who have joined the conversation tonight. Very many new names on the table here. I've seen Najat Zam, Ismail Musoke, who hasn't spoken yet, Jojo, Chiwanuka's iPhone, oh, you are on, Mama Aka, Rahila K, Sauda, Tarifa Twaha, Stera Wanderema, Raihan, Salama Arafat, all the way from Kampala as well, Wesley and Hajara, and the usual, Becca Chiiji, Hasfa, is all the way in the US, Farida, Hajat Sara Semakura, and so on. Thank you very much for being part of the conversation. The conversation is still continuing live here on 75W Radio and on Umma Connect on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. Mama Aka, I'm trying to get you. We are talking very seriously to issue eriwo. Does education matter? It would be very interesting. Thank you very much for joining the conversation. Mama Aka, I'm trying to get you to unmute yourself, please, and join the conversation. What we do here is, this is an open debate. It is a global community conversation. Everybody is free to have a say. We just do it decently with respect. That's the difference that we do here on the program. Mama Aka, are you able to speak? Or if you're unable, then I can be going around, and probably I'll come back to you so you can be getting yourself ready. Sauda, I'll come to you if you can unmute yourself, please. Sauda, assalamu alaikum. Hello, Sauda, can you unmute yourself, please?
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much for joining our conversation tonight.
You are welcome.
What's your take? Oh, suddenly the voice has gone off. I'll send the unmute button again for you to unmute yourself. There was some noise in the background. I wonder if probably you are still okay. Sauda, are you all right where you're at? Are you able to speak?
Yes, I'm fine, but I'm just starting to follow the conversation, so I can't give in my take for now.
But at least you would have a view. I mean, does education matter to you? Does it matter whether you marry, for example, a person that is more educated than you, or you are more educated than them? Does it matter to you at all?
I think it matters.
In what way?
With experience, I get to realize that people who are not educated feel very much inferior. They feel insecure. For example, if a man is not educated and a woman is educated, whatever the woman does, the man will think you're underlooking him, you don't respect him because of your education. Everything is negative. And the reverse is true. So you find you cannot develop yourselves because it looks like you're now competing because of education. So to me, I feel education matters.
Salama here, Raihan is saying in the chat room that can we also acknowledge that on average, women with higher education encourage their children to achieve more for themselves. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes, I do.
And you think men don't encourage, or by women having that higher education?
They both encourage. Yes. To me, I think if they are both educated, it works better. But if a woman is not educated, still even if the woman is not educated, the woman will fight very hard to make sure even the children get educated. Women will always want their children to get whatever they missed out. That's what I know. Okay. According to experience.
So what is worse? Is it a man that is less educated or a woman that is less educated? In case we were to have a couple.
I think it's bad for a man not to be educated. It's worse if a man is not educated. Yeah.
Does he see anything that is said as a challenge?
A woman is not that much educated, but if a man is educated, the family will grow better. And still, even if a woman is not educated, she will make sure that children get that education she missed.
Right, and Umar Kagombe is saying educated women for educated men. However, uneducated men should not go for educated women, maybe.
Yeah.
How about
Yeah,
that?
it's very true. For a man, if a man is not educated, like I said, he feels like the woman is always on top of mind in terms of decision making, underlooking him, and will not encourage the children to get that higher education. Kind
How
of being
about love,
negative
though?
all the time.
Sauda,
Which
how
is
about
different
love?
from-
Because I thought love would cover everything. Where there's love, everything else can
To
keep
be
quiet.
honest, whether there is love or no love, when competition comes in, then the love will drop. If someone is competing towards you, is always negative towards you, there is no love.
Right. And
there will be a clash all the
how,
time.
Sauda, how do you respond to this? Because what is happening today in today's world is that more women are getting and embarking more and more into higher education. They are improving their education levels. They are going for further education. While men find it a bit difficult, either because they feel they have the burden of running the family or other weaknesses. But for some reason, research is showing that more women are actually now going for higher education. And therefore, we have a situation where many women have gone for the higher education. They find themselves in this digital generation of confusion where any challenge to the man feels like, well, any conversation or discussion or argument with the man feels like a challenge. Homes are breaking up. These very highly educated women now are having to go lower to pick because the pick list high up there, the ideal situation would have been an educated woman marrying an educated man. But the list gets smaller and smaller as they go higher. So you find now very well educated women having to go and marry men who are not educated, and that is becoming very common as well. How do you deal with that?
To me, I don't think it's to do with education.
Right.
The biggest problem or weakness women have, highest percentage. If a woman has money, more money than a man, that woman in most cases tends to underlook the man and will not be able to listen to what the man says. She will feel she's on top all the time. In most cases, most women have that weakness. Very few of them will accept that this is my man and he's supposed to be the head of the family. But most of the women, if they have more money, then it takes over. And the respect.
Which seems to go with the higher education, because the higher the education, the more the money they would have access to. And therefore, lead up to that situation that you are painting at this moment in time.
I don't look at it as education, because even people who have not gone to school have more money.
What I was referring to is the higher the education. For example, a PhD holder will be earning a lot more money, of course, more than this one degree person, unless they are doing something else. But from a professional point of view, they would be earning a lot more money. So the more the women have become educated, the more access they've had to money. And that now would create the scenario that you're talking about, where they are earning more money than their spouses, their husbands, and therefore start underlooking them.
But I think that comes like human nature. By nature, or even religiously, women are meant to be given. So whether educated, whether having more money, you expect the man to give you, not you to give the man. So if the man is not providing enough, that brings in a conflict.
But if you have more, if you have access to more money, then it should have been that then you can actually give. There's no harm.
To me, according to experience and what I've seen, if you want your marriage to work out, you don't look at money as a man. If you have less money, you're earning less than the woman, then you give a chance for the woman to kind of make decisions in terms of finance, not like being a controller or controlling you, but you provide what you have, then a woman will come in. Because in most cases, as women, even if you have how much money more than the man, your money will always come back to the home. You plan for the home, which is different from a man. If a man has more money, then it will be tempting him to go and get more women, do things outside the marriage, which is different. A woman, whichever money that woman will have, will think of the children, with children you're having together. So there is no point hiding away your money, and yet you know that the woman is earning more than you. So bring what you have, then the woman will be like guilty not to provide or not to bring in whatever she has. So the conflict comes in when there is some dodgy network in terms of finances.
Thank you very much, Sauda, because what you have done is actually you've expanded this particular debate into a zone that now has to, everything has been let open. Umuraihan says money is a source of power regardless of who has more. I think even men are but we take out in Tondo at that point. Thank you very much, Sauda. Much appreciated. Let's see, Kojadiro, but them some say with Abjara, Sinza evitable. Obo Mami Abasinze evitable, tap the read the work in a relationship. Kojadiro, Salaam alaikum. Hello, Kojadiro. Hello, Koja Wori. All right, I'll be moving on. Kojanga Bwemulira Kayata Deko Arimukamori. Chiwanuka's iPhone, please. Chiwanuka's iPhone.
Oh, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi. Emigo Juri, the same way you've had the women.
Emigo jitukala kasefe nache chitufu.
So, your own take. Education impact in a relationship. Does it matter whether one is more educated and the other one is less educated? Does it affect the relationship?
Yeah, my understanding I think is narrow because I think love it happened in different ways and it happened to everyone in different angle. Mm-hmm. But as a man, I think as much as we have this conversation in general, I think we have a different approach to love. I think, let's say to marriage. Mm-hmm. I think men, when we go for a woman, okay, let me say I'm a PhD holder, I earn this much money. In not most cases, there is many cases where rich, educated people go for uneducated women purely for love. Mm-hmm. And I believe, I'm not certain, but I believe, whereas women, they calculate. There's a big cases women go for money first. Love come later. Mm-hmm. So for that incident, I think men and women, I think we're totally different. Men, basically, whether you're educated or not, love pull you in any direction. Mm-hmm. Whether she's educated or not, if you love her, you're gonna go provide and everything. You don't care.
And you're saying a woman wouldn't do that?
They will do, but not as many. If you look at percentage, I think men, our way of saying things maybe is genetic or whatever, but when it comes to marriage, I think we are pulled in we are not pulled in the same angle. Mm. You look at a woman, whether she ever been to school, if you love her, you're a PhD holder, whether you're president, it will happen. You're gonna marry her. It won't matter. But women, if you said...
Sarah in the chat room is saying men too these days are very calculative. Babaza.
Yeah, but they are not successful. They might do that, but they won't be successful. Mm. But women, whether Kaza settings out of getting that man, it won't be her choice. But a man, if it's your choice, you do it, and you'll be successful. Kakati wecho, echintu cha marriage echo. Okay, abantu kale kisinzira ba ango wawe meetings naye nga nsubira tekyali badde nti kimatalinga mu bufumbo. Where there is love, I think everything is possible, whether a woman is educated or...
Stay there, tovaako ku microphone. They can take chance. Ndaba awaniso mkono. Probably he wants to throw in more fire into the fireworks now. Chance K, you have the mic. Speak to Chiwanuka. Are you agreeing or disagreeing?
Well, my take is let's stop the blame game and get out of our comfort zone and support each other. If you're with your partner and you feel that he's lacking, education-wise, support him, and he goes to the level where you want. Because at the end of the day, we want a stable society for the next generation. That's where I see. That's what I pick from this conversation.
No.
Yeah.
Well, because Raihan is saying men generally go for women who they feel won't give them headache. That is women who will submit to their every whim. And Umar Kagombe, I think, makes a point here that is very valid. He says, I'm trying to get it. Men love peace. My sister, give him peace and you'll have their everything. So probably, I mean, we almost seem to be going, what men are calling peace, the women are looking at as someone who is submissive and therefore won't challenge or ask questions. Is that your view?
I think with this digital generation, we should, cultures have changed and we should go by that. You either take it or leave it. If for instance, if you're married to a prime minister, you don't expect her to come and kneel down every time. She may do that once a while, but if you're expecting her to make dinner for you, then you're lying yourself, because she's very committed to her job.
Chiwanuka, come back, please. Chiwanuka, come out.
Right.
I wanted us to finish up on that. So Chance was just making an intervention there, which I don't think was against what you were saying at all.
Right.
Yes,
right.
I think he was just sort of throwing in an additive in
for sure. But okay, this generation actually, I think, they have it easy because they can tailor-made what they want to get married to. Because there is this app where you have this profile, you put out everything all about you, and they scroll down and they feel like, okay, you don't meet my criteria, go up until they meet whoever. But then again, me, I always feel like love, it should be everything. When it comes to marriage, I think love should start. Everything should start with love, whether you're educated or not. If you love somebody, believe me, I think where there is love, education, I think is secondary anyway, because that's an entity comes with it. Well, with you acquire it anyway. But it's very hard for you to acquire love if you are, because there's some people actually are not wired that way. They don't understand what love is. They might have taken it, whatever, but they don't connect with people.
Yes, but considering the point that was raised, which was about men being, rather women being calculative, as well as other women also saying men are calculative these days. And
right.
once you end up falling in love, not intentionally, like you didn't set out to fall in love, but circumstances take you to fall in love, and therefore you find yourself in that particular situation. So with the context of education, because without losing the focus on the education, because it is love, yes, but going with the level of education, whether the circumstances that would take you to a person that is uneducated, what's the likelihood other than the fact that there is either manipulation or considering that you are going in to impose yourself? I don't know if I'm clear.
You are clear.
Yes.
You are clear, but
so I'm thinking you're talking about falling in love in the true sense, but there is you are in circumstances, you are desperate. Where you are at, you cannot survive. You cannot survive the situation, and that applies to both sides, both women and men. So I'm just thinking, in case that love comes from there, they're already in a situation where probably you are deep into the relationship, and therefore any coming out now would be costly.
Yeah, but as a man, basically, in most cases, what I'm thinking, okay, let's say, for the argument's sake, I've fallen in love with a woman, she's totally out, she's uneducated, and she's okay, but I loved her in a way. She, I felt, okay, let's say trapped. In that trappedness, I came out with a, let's say we are blessed with a child. I'm not gonna say I'm a loser. whatever she take from me, at least my child will benefit. Yes, the marriage, I don't think there is any marriage or any love which is cast in a stone. Well, if things happen and I don't feel like I'm, I'm attracted to you anymore, it was a trap, I'll walk out, but you still have a child. You take whatever, half of what I had, and I walk away and start a new life, I guess.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much. Barakallahu fikum. Ismail Musoke is ready now. I'm getting the men, then I'll bring back the women and we have our conversation. Let's, Ismail Musoke, you say you are ready now. Thank you very much. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Welcome to the conversation.
Alhamdulillah, it's a pleasure to be back again. I've missed out a few weeks, but alhamdulillah, it's good to be back.
Fantastic. You found us where you left us. We continue with the conversation.
Alhamdulillah.
Welcome.
Yes, so in regards to the discussion, education, and marriage, I would say, Sheikh KAYIRA, this is a thing that's more of a modern day issue now. When you speak, even to be honest, even in recent times, when you speak to maybe our grandparents and those generations before, this wasn't something that was as much as of a concern. But now we're in situations where people are putting in marriage proposals, or people are writing marriage profiles, and on those profiles they're saying requirements. The sister needs to have a degree, master's, PhD, and vice versa. Also, sisters demanding men with high level qualifications. So what's happening is that now we're finding people are many people are being left out of in terms of the marriage market. Many people are not being able to find spouses just based on a piece of paper, a certificate, which actually doesn't really guarantee whether or not you're going to be a good husband or a wife. We know people who have masters, who can't even boil an egg. It's not even not even able to do that. And then we have people who maybe Yamana P7 she knows what to do in there. So I think we need to a lot of times these things I feel come from a more materialistic perspective, unfortunately, especially when it's I feel like it's more of a materialistic thing.
Isma, look at this particular scenario. You are educated, your wife is uneducated. You've been invited for a company party. You are here, it's a cocktail party. Everybody's standing. You have to introduce, yourselves to the different people. People have come with their wives and so on. And you have your wife from Channa Sanja or Channa Mkaka, brought here, uneducated, but she's your wife. And, with love, once you're home, you feel comfortable around them. And then you have to introduce them to your friends in this particular work party. You see that kind of picture, the kind of scenario that is coming across. Or even worse now, because now you use the woman, but now imagine it's the wife who is a lawyer, corporate lawyer working, representing big customers. Here you are, Hajisima Musoke, you've come here, your shirt nicely tucked in, just picture this and sort of see the kind of scenario that the issue of compatibility, whether you are in love or whatever, you can see the kind of dilemma that we are talking about. And increasingly, these situations are coming up because research from the Pew Institute has shown more women are actually, going into higher education. This one does not even need research. We can see it with our own eyes. You see that even in homes, a wife will be there. She will go do another course here, do another course. Men are sort of, I don't know whether to call it focus or whatever, but you find that now the ability, it's not every man that goes to push or to pursue further education. As a result, you're getting more women now who are much more educated, but then the men being left behind, whether, out of their own laziness or circumstances. And now you've ended up with this gap where now these very highly educated women have to stoop low, and I'm using that reservedly, stoop low and come to the men that are less educated to be able to get married because they need the marriage, but the men in that higher echelons are not there.
Okay. Where are those men? They're not there at all?
Well, not enough of them. What I'm saying is the higher you go, you find that the sieve continues to actually reduce the numbers. So you find that you are getting more women rising up there, not enough men going to that same level. And then as a result, you have to find these women now who have to come down to be able to pick from down. And as trying to pick from down, we are ending up with a serious dilemma where now the issue of these complexes, the inferiority complexes start coming in. The husband who has been taken in the name of love because the woman needs companionship. Yeah, they'll make every money they can, they'll become rich. But once you get there, then what? Then suddenly you start realizing you need this companionship. And this companionship will not be available from that person of that higher level. You need a person lower because that's the one that is available. But that comes with problems.
Yes. So I think, there's so many things you can touch on, but to summarize, because I know other people also want to come and give their views. I feel like, and this may be an unpopular opinion, I feel like many of our women have been lied to. Many of our women have been lied to. And what do I mean by this?
Lied to by who?
They've been sold a dream, a Western dream. They've been sold a Western dream. And what do I mean by this? I mean, when they're young, they're taught, go to school, work hard, get an education, get your master's, get your PhD. By the time she's finished all of doing that, or doing all of those qualifications of working and getting experience, maybe she's in her late 20s. Now, the men who she may desire at that time, they're looking at the women who are maybe a bit younger, early 20s. So a lot of times they come into the marriage market already at a disadvantage, even though they have their qualifications. These are things that are not really helping them in terms of finding a husband. Now, am I saying women don't go to school and don't study? No, what I'm saying is that also focus on building those skills that are going to allow you to, inshallah, find a good husband, which are the homely skills and qualities that most men look for. In regards to men, I think a man should always aspire, but that always doesn't have to be the stereotype of going and getting a master's or a PhD. There are men who are entrepreneurs. Maybe he studied up to a certain level, whether, let's say, S4, let's say this country equivalent of GCSE, but he's an entrepreneur. He's someone who's hardworking and he's a good husband. He shouldn't be overlooked because he doesn't have qualifications. So it's just about everyone understanding their situation. I also do factor in compatibility, that, it wouldn't make sense for someone, from a middle class family with a master's to go to someone, fresh from the village. This, that doesn't make any sense, and it would lead to further issues, communication and compatibility issues.
It wouldn't even be fair because, feeling in love is one thing, but also being able to sustain and nurture it is another thing altogether.
Yes, and a family also plays a big part, because remember, when you marry someone, you don't just marry them, you also marry into the family as well. So if the family is quite well educated, quite wealthy, you're coming from a more poor background, less educated, in-laws, there may be some tension there, which could also then strain the marriage. Let's say that the husband and wife, they get on perfectly. On a P7, on our PhD, they chemistry, but the families, there's always going to be a bit of pulling back and forth. These ones are from the village. There's a way they see things. These ones are middle class. So you might find there'll be issues. So we should also factor that in. And Sheikh KAYIRA, I'll end with this point. A lot of the youth of today, we think, unfortunately, when we want to get married, we're just going to marry that person, whether it's sisters or brothers, that I'm just going to marry that person and remove them from their environment and remove them from their lifestyle and from their house, which, you also need to remember that you're marrying into a family. So you need to factor that in. What level of education, what kind of class, who is the family that I'm marrying into? And that has to be part of your decision-making process, whether you're going to go down with that.
Isma, that is the ideal situation, but quite often what happens, reality is slightly different. And here is the point. You've spoken about, lady comes in, lady is very ambitious, lady goes for course 1, lady goes for course 2. Before she knows it, she's actually at 30 years of age, nearly moving into 33, going into 35. Panic starts coming in, because now the amount of choices, the amount of time to take to start looking at all these very beautiful qualities becomes a problem when society's eyes are thrown at her and the pressure is mounting. Now, this actually throws in a sort of the panic buttons and therefore takes away the comfort zone that would have ordinarily existed for the person to allow the person to start looking around. do you see the dilemma that sometimes we find ourselves into?
But Sheikh Kayira, what were they doing to get to the age of 30?
They were studying. They were studying. Ambitiously pursuing their dream. And then reality has to say, oh, yes, absolutely.
SubhanAllah. Yeah, that's true.
Well, Sharifa, I'll come to Sharifa to say thank you very much, Ismail. Fantastic points there, by the way, that you've raised there.
Thank you, sir.
Sharifa says it's unfortunate that this generation, most ladies would rather go for someone with material and high social status, especially in African communities. Sharifa, I give you the mic. Welcome to the conversation. You've been lost for a bit of time. Welcome back. Assalamu alaikum. What's your take? Do you think education matters at all? Should it matter even?
It depends, because if a lady is uneducated and gets an educated man and they feel like they're right, I think for them it should be all right. And if a lady is educated, depends to what level, I think.
Mm-hmm. No, but
for example,
I'm just assuming now we are getting someone who is coming from, who has just been brought from Kameng. There, they say there's an educated man here. They bring the lady from Kameng where she's been there, and probably P7 dropouts. COVID came and schools closed, and the girl is, well, not P7. Let's say S3, S4. That the other one would be too young. That would be you'd be arrested for defilement. So well, let's talk about 23, 24 where girls, schools have been off. They bring this beautiful girl to get married to this man. Actually, that probably sometimes that might even work. But the problem now is that the vice versa. You have this lady, very well educated Sharifa, who now has to face up because the dilemma of finding a man has become an issue. Gets a man who is from Gwebitakuri, and you're going to marry that man because of love, because of what you consider to be love. You probably grew up together up to a certain point. You came to Europe, left them in the village, they dropped out of school, but that love of old is still there, and you want to go and bring back the flames. Picking up the flames at a time when you've already had your master's degree and they stopped at S4. Can it work? Would it be convenient? Sharifa?
Well, first of all, if there's love, everything is possible. Can you hear me, Shay?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hear me?
Quiet. Yes, I can hear you.
You're saying if there is, everything is possible, because to support them to get where you want them, you can help them, because it's not every time you're going to find someone who is already equipped with whatever you want. But if you really love this person, you can always support them and get them to where you want to. So everything, that's what I would say.
But would it work like in normal situations? Do you think it would be a comfortable place to be in, where you have one party that is educated,
no,
the other one, like lowly educated?
Not even, no chance.
All right.
No, not at all.
16 minutes to the top of the hour and to the end of the program. A very fantastic conversation we've had tonight. Sharifa, so I'll put it to you then. I mean, because the reality is different. Women are attending school more. They are getting more and more qualifications. Not enough men are following suit, which means definitely one group will have to be higher and the other one will be slightly lower. How do we deal with that? Probably that's a better question to put. How do we?
I think men just have to understand that they can always catch up, because women are already there, And at the same time, I would say women need to understand their responsibilities. However much you might be educated, you might be, having all the PhDs, you're still a woman. You're born to play your role as a wife and as a mother. Those are your best roles. Those are the first things you have to understand before you even go and understand your PhDs or study whatever you want to do. So those are your best jobs.
What is the role of the woman? Probably that would help. Sometimes we fail to understand when it comes to definition, and the expectations might be different. what would you describe as the roles of this, mother and wife in your
Obviously,
own?
to respect your husband and look after your children and look after the family. I mean, you work together, it's a teamwork. But as a woman, you're literally the owner of the house. You run this house. It's like your office.
And
like
you
it or
can run
not,
it
I
down.
know a lot of ladies don't want to hear about, or when people say the kitchen is your office, but that's the truth. The kitchen is your office. It's not something like as if you're a maid or whatever, but that's your first office. And your family. Before
I'm
you
sure.
go out and study whatever you want to do, that's your first office. That's what you have to understand first before you go anywhere. So those are the first steps. So if you miss out that, I think your education is gonna run your home and run. That's not gonna work at all, because you can't bring your education at home all the time and trying to act as if you're better than everybody. You just have to blend in and every whatever. I mean, how can I say? I don't know the right words to say, but definitely, being a wife is different as well.
Well,
if you can combine it, if you can combine all those qualities in one, plus the education skills you've got from your school, I mean, that's fantastic.
Well, Sharifa, stay there. Don't go off. I think Farida has a question for you. Farida, go ahead.
Go on, Farida.
You are listening to Sharifa. You've got a question. Farida, you have the mic. Please unmute yourself. You have a question for Sharifa. Go ahead. Speak to Sharifa. That's how we do it in this conversation here. Farida? Farida, I'm trying to get you to unmute yourself and speak to Sharifa, please. And it's 21:48, 12 minutes to the top of the hour. This is Come Let's Talk with me, KASSIM KAYIRA, live on 75W Radio and live on Umma Connected on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. Farida, are you there? Well, Farida was asking you, Sharifa. I think she's shied away from coming on, but it would have been quite interesting to just have woman to woman on this particular aspect. She was asking, really, Sharifa, because when you talked about the woman's first office being the kitchen, I think she has issues with that and asks, so what is the man's first office? Do you have an answer to that, Sharifa? What's the man's first office? The bedroom?
That's literally, I mean, let's agree or not to agree. Yeah. Where we come from, we have our culture that runs us, It's not like if I say it's your first office, I'm not saying you're the only one who's going to cook in the house alone. No, even your husband can help out, but it's your responsibility to make sure everyone is fed in the house. There's food in the house. It's your responsibility. There's food. People are not hungry. That's just like how our mothers used to do.
Right.
Your father would go out and work, and you find your mother has cooked. So that's how it's been raised. And if it's not, if you cannot do that, then what's the point of calling yourself a wife in the first place?
Thank you very much, Sharifa. Sauda is responding, saying man's first office is financing the home, regardless of what income. And Raihan, I would disagree with you on this, but she says, not all women want to be wives. If that's your dream to be a wife and mother, then by all means equip yourself with that. But let us not disregard those women who do not consider domestic duty as their calling. Yes, then if it's not domestic duty, then they can't be married. Otherwise,
then if you cannot be married and you're a woman,
you wouldn't want to be a wife.
I don't know. Who wouldn't want to do that? Because who wouldn't want to procreate? Everybody would like to have children someday, unless they're not able to, which is okay as well.
Right.
We're not men.
Becca, come in, bring the fight on, please. I know the fire, as the time gets to the end, it gets more heated. Becca, you have the mic. Sharifa has just introduced us to an area that is raised a bit of controversy. Your take, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi
wa barakatuh.
The problem we have is ladies or women like to fight nature, there's an example I tell people normally when I'm speaking to people. I say that there's a reason why when a woman does something, she's judged more, and when a man does something, he's judged less. It's because we look at women as the mothers of our generation, you know, because women give birth to us. So literally we expect a lot from women. So that's why they say wherever there's a successful man behind, there's a lady there, you know. So the topic tonight is about whether knowledge or how educated you are matters. It depends on why you got interested in this person, you know. Oyinza okusanga omuntu Sheikayira nga amagezi mangi nga ebitabo byonna PhD azirina Sheikayira naye nga tasobola kuwaata matooke wali mu ffumbiro. Okitegeera kati then gwe ng'omuntu olina okusalawo n'ogamba ku bibiri nina okumanya kati gwe bangendedde bino ebirungi amagezi gaalina omanya nina okuyingira mu ffumbiro n'enkola ki n'enfumba. Then naye ng'ate
kirimi wano Safina azze mu chat room ndowooza adidde kukyalo hand kyawadaga nti not all women want to be wives kyokka bambi. If you don't want to be a wife, what do you want? Be a side chick? I don't know anyone who wants to be alone in life. Get a mass of those.
Sheikayira no tugamba obuzibu ebintu bisinga bifa ku ntandiko eno oyinza okusanga omuntu n'oba taking out kumanya ddala mu butuufu ki naye nga it shouldn't matter kubanga ffenna oluusi oyinza okusanga omuntu atasomye n'asomye bonna basobola okukwatagana maybe omukyala oba oyagala omwami wasomye maybe oyinza okunoonya engeri gy'omuinfluence nga n'akola ki n'asoma naye ng'ate obuzibu waliwo okukonyeko even earlier obuzibu bwe tulina ffe abaddugavu most of our dreams are lost when we are young nti n'oba obanga tugeza tukola obanga omuntu akuze oyinza okusanga omwami omuwasiza naye ng'alina ekirooto kye kyakutandika business naye gwe ng'olaba takola ki talina bitabo teyasoma biki naye ng'ate osobola otandika business nga tewakola ki nga tewasoma oba n'osanga omukyala nga teyasoma naye ng'ate amaka asobola okugalabirira from top to bottom nogaa nze omwami kankole omukyala akole ki alabirire ebyawaka so bisobola okukola naye obuzibu tugendera ku banandaba batya nga mfunye omwami ataasoma banandaba batya nga mfunye omukyala ataasoma so that's where the problem lies tuconcentratinga ku biki n'ogenda n'otomera omukyala n'obeera naye nga toli yape naye lwakuba oyagala olaga abantu mbu olina omuntu yasoma alina zi degree just to put up a presence
waliwo abakyalo tutomeza because there is one thing that women have that men are not very good at. Omukyala nga yategedde nti olina interest in them ogamba nti akweke byonna obuzwina obuli mu kabaddeeyo bubule mpaka ng'omaze okufayo gy'oka obirabe. Always an easy option. That happens so much. Ndabayo emikono waggulu Galaxy AO2 and Ryan, I'm coming to you. Becca, wrap up please.
How I would wrap up is tuleme concentrating nnyo ku education kubanga mu obufumbo tebugendera ku education mu bufumbo otherwise byandi kitaddeko quality naddala ffe abasiraamu batugamba ebyokunoonyereza mu bufumbo education teriiko bandibadde bagiteekako kubanga kati tulina okunoonya balance ne tuba nti buli omu alina ekimukolera buli omu alina bw'oba omanyi gwe wasoma nnyo era oyagala omwami naye nga yasoma nnyo genda onoonye yasoma ennyo naye bw'obanga gwe okiteeka ku ki ku qualities z'onoonya bw'obanga naye onoonya kubeera happy mu bufumbo education tekirina bbeerako sooka onoonye mu bufumbo onoonyamu ki then ojja kufuna ekyo ky'oyagala naye nga nze to me personally education temataringa mu bufumbo kubanga bwe mutuuka mu bufumbo okulabirira baana education ate awo teyingiriwo ddala.
Barakallahu fikum. Becca Sauda is saying in the chat room, it's best not to generalize. There are educated women earning good money, but respecting their husbands and marriage running very smooth. But education is key. Illiterate people are difficult to manage, men or women. Farida agrees, says, true point. That is to Becca. That's why we find ourselves not happy in marriages. Safina comes back to say, homework of these days needs educated women. An educated woman. And Farida says again, women have been oppressed so much. That's why they are trying to pursue their dreams. It's not a matter of getting higher education. So, Mukono Galaxy, please, if you can unmute yourself. Galaxy, you have the mic. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Now, welcome.
Can you hear me?
Amanya sebo ndaba Galaxy uka.
Busabwa mbogo batini.
Yes, sir. Thanks for
Ne aziza nyo mukisa muno. To add on what Becca has said, no mchala asembyeyo. Actually, education is good. Naye nsobira tugikozesa mu mbeera embi. kubanga education kye kintu kye twongerezaako obwongereza kuggwe kikyoli naye ebiseera ebisinga kituconfusinga ate ne kitukyusa. It's like Sheikh Kayira nga bw'onoofuna ssente nnyingi n'ogula emmotoka nga nnungi nnyo era ng'edduka nnyo, it doesn't mean you have to overspeed. Okitegeera? Olina okusigala ng'emmotoka eyo ogivuga responsibly n'omanya nti bwe na overspeedinga ejja kunkozesa ensobi. So ne education, sometimes some people, the more they get educated, batuuka okubanga they are not themselves anymore. They leave the friends they used to have. Nga balaba bo tebakyasaanira kuba mikwano gyabwe. So nze ndaba nti ne mu bufumbo tekirina mu bufumbo bwokka. Osanga n'omuntu nga ne muzadde we takyamuwa kitiibwa because of that education. Ye alaba ayiseewo. So kati kye ŋŋamba nti tuyina okubalansinga education. Kiki kye tuyina okugikozesa etuyambirawa ne mu bufumbo egenda kutuyambirawa. Bw'oba ng'osinzeeko musajja w'okusoma tekitegeeza nti oyina okumuyisaamu amaaso. Lwakuba ffe ng'abasajja twatondebwa muli nga tumanyi nti buli kimu tulina okusinga abakyala. Nti gwe mw'onooba osinze mukyala w'okusoma tojja kikulembeza nnyo kuba omanyi that's how it is supposed to be. Bw'onooba omusinze ssente ogamba that is how it is supposed to be. Naye bo ng'abakyala kibaleetera obuzibu. Education bw'eyitirira alowooza takyali ye, is someone else. Naye nga olina okukimanya nti education ebadde nnyongereza just kuggwe kikyoli. Olina okusigala nga yeggwe then ogikozese obulungi nga bw'onoobeera n'emmotoka nga nnungi nnyo 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 bagiwa speed y'amaanyi nnyo 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 naye tolina kugimalayo oba kuyisaawo. Givuge ng'omanyi nti bwe ngivuga obubi ennyo ejja kuntomeza nja kufa. So kati ne mu bufumbo education bwetyo bwe tulina okukibalansinga ne bw'oba wafuna ataasoma. Waliwo yagambye nti love weeri buli kimu kisoboka. Bantu bangi nnyo ng'abasajja bazizaayo abakazi baabwe ne basoma nga tebaasoma. Naye ate ne weesanga nga gw'osomesezza, for example nga wano abasajja basacrifice nga ye n'ayoza mmotoka omukazi n'agenda n'asoma nursing. Ate olumala okusoma nursing otandise okufuna ku ssente n'otandika olaba ono ng'atajja.
No, Martin, actually you raise a very, 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 very important point. And quite often, most women actually, are so blind to this. And this I'm speaking now as a man, although as a moderator, I'm meant to be free and rather be impartial. And I am. But on this particular point, I've seen so many cases, endless cases that have come to my attention. Josanga omuchara against an asoma. Yet to the man, it is a sacrifice.
Exactly. Kola kino okole kino. Fenna bwe tunaakola ekyo obufumbo tebujja kutambula. Ojja kwesanga fenna bwe tunaakola ekyo oluusi abaana ani agenda okubeerawo. Naye abasajja they sacrifice, abakazi ate bo ne bayitawo. Naye ffe olw'okuba tukimanyi nti omukazi olina omusinga ssente, olina omusinga amagezi, fenna bwe tubifuna tusigala nga tuli awo bwe tutyo tuli nomo. You are okay. But for women, I think they need to balance that.
Thank you very much, Martin. We're in you attend conversation. Actually, it's the second time I think I'm hearing you. Thank you very much for being part of the conversation. Brian, you have the microphone. We just have 1 minute to the top of the hour, but let's roll probably. We'll allow you 3 minutes. So, Brian.
Assalamu alaikum
wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Njoyinize late sitegedde ki gye mugifayinize nti no education level gye mbadde mwogerako
tubadde ku omwami asobola okuba tubadde ku side zombi nti waliwo research from the Pew Institute eraze nti abakyala kati right now are getting a lot more higher education, and higher education is masters and degree, masters and PhDs. Many men tebasobodde kwongerako. That imbalance. You have so many women abali ku higher level and less men who are at that level. Now, many women have been forced to come and marry abasajja abali wansi kubanga eri ku level yabwe waggulu tebawera abaliyo mu kasengejja kaawo. They are cutting down tebamaringa naye oluvannyuma lw'ekyo same complications in relationships. Is it possible that you can still marry a person voicing ebitabo? Well, even vice versa, nti abasajja abalina education y'amaanyi ku bakyala abatalina. So generally, we are looking at that, whether it can be an issue within the relationship, whether it should be considered, actually, whether it should be a factor at all.
I think it shouldn't be a factor at all if you think about it, especially in similar to Wanga, you know. Wanga ebiseera ebisinga population y'abaami abasomye ntono ku by'abakyala abasomye So if we are going to think about education, we won't get married at all. We're likely not to get married at some point. Men are sacrificing a lot for us to do, or to push us to be somewhere. And besides, yes, they have degrees from home, but they're not using them here because what the chance say by exploring that education they had backwards.
Yes.
So in a combination, yeah, education and marriage, I think it's an individual thing anyway. And those are all probably Banabato, maybe they'll take it on, but not on our age group. There's any more age group anyway, the up. So probably that's why I'm kind of thinking marriage and education is something individual thing. And so it's pretty I would say singer by the avant of Bombi. That marriage doesn't work out. Competition is too much most times anyway. Like so you end up like you need to compromise. It's just back to marriage. It's just compromise. It's not about education or what. Yeah, that's my take. Anyway.
Does it become a factor there? Example nkuwadde omwami osomye oba omukyala osomye nnyo mwami wo teyasoma nnyo otuuse mu pate y'omulimu mulina okugenda cocktail eno olina okujja oyanjula baawo abantu bajja ne beeyogerako n'agamba ayinze commercial director here.
Yeah, but Sheikh bodeka okusoma nkatinga efe Uganda nti okusoma omuntu baba amanyi oluzungu balowooza yasoma. So it's not about that. That's what I'm saying. So he's probably married to someone who's is for dropout back home, and then when you introduce her to him to your friends, for example, yes, only highly educated, or Baba definitely is educated. It's something different. I'm saying I don't think education should be something to stop someone to get married or to someone. When doors are coming.
Impediment. Education to problem. It becomes a problem where bwekiba nti omubwana abeera nti naddala ku side ey'omukyala okuba nti asinza ng'omwami ebitabo okufuuka okuleetamu inferiority complex omukyala okuwulira ng'alina bw'ali kubanga ku basajja it's not very much like abasajja kibaddewo
ekyo kyatonderwa abakyala tulina okubeera nga tulina ekintu ekyo nti it's not about education yokka bwekirowooza naye tuba tulina ssente nnyingi era it becomes something which we kind of use to fight men off. That's what I'm saying. But it's not about education. Anything kyetubasinza abasajja ebiseera ebisinga babanga gwosinza mwami oba gwomusinga anything or era obeera ebiseera ebisinga okimukozesa fighting off. So I don't think education, probably education is part of it, but it's not only education that can stop people going on in marriage.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much. Message here, Umma Connected, please. So taking this quick message here which says we shouldn't behave differently because of the level of education, but it remains.
Let me submit mine. I think obulamu bw'ensi bwonna Mungu yabuteerawo nga bukolebwa ekigambo kimu weekiti character. Kye tutuyisa mu nsi ne tubeera aba legends ne tubeera aba heroes character. Oba osomye ebintu bikomawa oba osomye bifaanana bitya as long as your character ngambi tewali kyogenda kutuukako nga ekirungi obeere successful. Ne wonabeera successful bagenda kwogerera nga obi because you have a bad character. Kati n'obeera nga osomye ebitabo byenkana ki naye nga olowooza nti abantu bonna gwobasinga buli wotuuka mu room yonna olowooza gwosinga ne marriage tejja kukolera niwonaba olina munno ng'asomye okwenkana kubanga character is bad. Kati omuntu nze ndabamu amaalo mangi abantu abakola ebintu ebyo Kayira ndaba amaalo mangi. Omuntu aba asomye n'akulembeza okusoma kwe nga they are arrogant okusoma kwabwe kubafudde arrogant. Ndaba nga amaalo mangi nnyo sigwosoose okusoma kiringa muntu afunye ssente n'alowooza nti abalala bonna yabasinga atambulira alowooza nti yatambulira na mu bbanga amaala ago. So going back as far as the point nnungi nnyo Busabambogo raising the point empitirivu obulungi ng'era Hasfa nti abasajja bano abasinga obungi. I have my cousin ye yalinga wa P7 n'awasa omukazi we nga she's an educationist, she graduated n'amubeererawo omukazi n'amugamba tukole kino tukole amasomero tukole gano because omukazi yali arespectinga nnyo baawe nebba n'agenda n'asoma oluzungu n'abeera alina ssente nnyingi n'asoma oluzungu alwogera bulungi nnyo. Their marriage ebaddewo for years now, over 30 years. Yeah. So omuntu is your character. Education naye nga tetulina oconsideringa n'ebigambo by'omubaka tulina obi consideringa bwe tuba nga tugenze mu marriage eno kweno topic omubaka yatugamba yatudiscouraginga okubeera nti tuwasa omuntu atusinga ennyo oba tuli wansi ennyo. So you have to balance. Bw'oba yanga oli wa university wasoba senior 4 talina mutawaana ayogera nawe obuluzungu naye ekintu kyentamwa ekinjijina ekinirritatinga kyekiri kyoyogera Seeka Kayira wakakyogera emirundi esatu mu conversation eno tiyombeera ku pate yammwe muyina work pate yammwe abantu baintroduce kinjijina mpulira kinkola bubi. Omukazi waba wange nebba obanga omuntu bbaawo lwaki baba baintroduce oba CEO waki oba oli ugundi waki omukazi wange this is my wife man. Oba omukazi wa director waaki oba waaki oba oli lawyer olina PhD mmeka tebinkolera ekinkolera nze kye nasimba kiri kino wano ono ye mukazi wange sigenda mu introducing oba ye CEO oba she's a farmer oba she's a wife she's a housewife. We should stop pretending and keeping up appearances nti okubeera ow'ekitiibwa mu bantu eri ekitiibwa kyange nze nkyewa bw'oba tokimpadde lekayo. This is my love. Bwe sikwagala na bitabo byo ono gwe nasiima yankolera yanzijuza. That's my take, sir.
Oh, kajuze
kyekyange sebo maze sebo.
Fantastic, brilliant. Actually, if education was all, then some women would not be walking away from fully educated men and financially stable homes for ordinary border man. I think that confirms that. Thank you very much for a very beautiful conversation. Another night of beautifulness. There are some people who have just joined us pretty late. And Amina Amba, who's joined us late. Farida Zabali came in late as well. Rababu Munta, I tried to unmute you quite a number of times when you didn't come in. But thank you very much for all your contributions and for those who are in the Kamoli for listening in and making this program what it is. Nadiagadde nnyo ekigambo ekisembayo nkiweeko kojja ddiiro nga sinasimbula kojja ddiiro mbadde nkusaba ojje please on kubanga conversation ogiwulidde eno gyetambulidde. I think if you are available tukuwe akakisa tukuwulizeeko ekigambo kyo nakyo kikulu ku myaka ku mbeera then okukola comparisons ku topic eno eriwo. Kojja ddiiro oli kojja unmute sebo kojja alemedde mulooka. Okay, Faida says great point here. Right, we should stop giving in to the environment, making them happy. You will. Okay, let me just get one last person, one final person, and then we'll wrap up. Rahila, are you there? Rahila, Rahila, if you are there, please unmute. Rahila, okay? Rahila, are you there? Oh, Rahila, yes. Thank you very much, Rahila. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi.
Edobozi nga liri wansi nnyo. Are you at work?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, welcome to the conversation. Points was Wuridde. What is your take?
Alhamdulillah, mashallah, bonna abantu abateeseza kukolamu. Yes, abantu badde ne suggestions oba opinions nyingi tebawadde. Naye I think asemyeyo gambayo agamba nti oba
Rahila, network you mpulira tawana.
Zengizeemu ngali oba mu bufumbo. Oba mu bufumbo ompulira?
Kati bulungi nnyo.
Nti oba mu bufumbo tuyina kwegamba okutambuza compassion n'okuba nti nno tubeera basaasizi oba tubeera tutegeeragane rather than okulembeza education kuba mbeera mutegeera byomu alina formula era nga Sheikh Kayira bw'agambye nti byomu alina formula gy'atambulizaamu obufumbo bwe so okutegeeragana n'okuba nga mukolagana I think really very vital more than education for me.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's my take. Thank you so much.
Barakallahu fikum. And I thank you very, very much. I can only thank you for tonight. Unless I wouldn't want to leave without you having your contribution. You can just raise up your hand the usual way, the usual Zoom way. Just put up your hand and then we can take you in. If not, then I can only thank you very much for a very beautiful night. 39, we went up to 40 people. I think the numbers sometimes, Ogano Sangat, you can have huge numbers, but where there's no contribution coming in. Your numbers actually are what makes, this conversation growing and growing. And let's continue having this. We are back next Tuesday, inshallah, with Come Let's Talk with me, KASSIM KAYIRA, live here on 75 W Radio. Every Wednesdays, it's Bridging the Gap with Becca Chiyinji. And then, Becca,
njagala kuba kalango ka show tomorrow ekya tugenda kwogera ku red flags ku Bridging the Gap kuva ku saawa emu ku 75 Radio. Red flags in relationships tiwali oyingidde obufumbo ne wejjusa n'ogamba yikale bannange alina kye yakola bwekitibwe nalabira kale namanya naye n'okyoverlooking ate n'otuuka mu bufumbo nekikutabu nekifuukira ettabbu. That's our topic tomorrow, inshallah.
All right, fantastic. Inshallah, we'll be training 7:30 as usual.
7 o'clock, 7 to 9 o'clock, yes.
Okay,
red flags ignoring nga tetunnayingira relationship obwo.
Olengera n'obuyisaako amaaso obanga aga nti nabujjanjaba
nti nabujjanjaba teyasoma nja musomesa.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much to everyone who has been a part of this conversation tonight. Let's meet again next week, inshallah, with this program. And tomorrow, you can come in for Bridging the Gap with Becca Chiyinji. I'm back on Tuesday next week, inshallah, same time, 8 to 10 p.m. Please call the others. Everyone for your contributions tonight. I thank you very, very much. Have a very good night. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.